We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher Tosopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. On the heels of an amazing week last week, nailing Colin Simmons, the top edge rush recruit out of Duncanville High School. He'll be heading to the Longhorns next season, unless absolute disaster, which we don't think will happen because we're very confident heading into the year, as is the AP poll. We thought the coaches liked us, putting us at number 12. AP poll loves us, putting us at number 11, even one spot higher heading into a football season. We're one of the top. We are the top Big 12 team heading into the season, according to the AP poll, which is very exciting. And yeah, you got to love the praise once again, and love us being sandwiched between Washington and Tennessee in the AP poll. We were behind both of them in the coaches poll, but being sandwiched between the two in the AP poll, two teams that we think can be sneaky contenders for the playoffs. Very exciting for the boys in Burn Orange.
Yeah, just more good stuff following up on the coaches, like you said, and now it's just time to execute, as we always say, right? We've got the momentum, we've got the hype. Apparently had a really nice scrimmage on Saturday. Quinn looked solid, Malik looked good, but Arch really was the standout, and different reports saying different things, but I read somewhere from, I think it was from Anwar Richardson, that he had a 70-yard touchdown run that was broken off on an improvised play. Someone else said it was 50. So who really knows how long it was? But just the fact that that guy is excelling in scrimmage formats is good to see. Excited to see him donning the burnt orange when we play Rice in that home opener. But yeah, I mean, that should be, with where our ranking came in at the AP poll, being able to play a team like Rice with our first matchup and hopefully taking care of business handily will be a nice statement to the rest of college football that we deserve the ranking that we're getting. And, we have to go out there and do that. But I'm excited to see what Sarkisian has geared up for that game, for that first game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we don't see any Arch run. I mean, we could see him for a couple games and he still gets his red shirt. So if we're absolutely smashing Rice, maybe we could see that 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 120-yard run as the legends will keep growing that Arch Manning had at the scrimmage.
Just the Forrest Gump run, just kept on running.
He Forrest Gumped it. It's hilarious. A good meme. Yeah, I mean, it's there. Another interesting recruiting move I wanted to bring up, though, Jacorian Moore, 5-star wide receiver recruit out of Duncanville for the 2025 class, not the 2024 class, like our guy Colin Simmons, committed to LSU. So interesting on both ways, considering that LSU and Texas were the two finals for Colin Simmons. I'm curious to see as the year goes on if Texas can, does what we think they can do. Obviously, Colin Simmons being a stalwart and hopefully joining the recruiting frenzy on behalf of Texas. Is that a guy that we could swing in the 2025 class?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's off the table, especially when it's a guy who's not set to step on campus for another 2 years, over 2 years. So, I mean, we see it all the time. We flip guys left and right. Guys flip from us. Guys transfer. I mean, there's no guarantee that Colin Simmons is even a Longhorn after this year or even in 6 months. So, you never know. But I imagine and I anticipate that he's going to stick with us. And hopefully there's a trickle-down effect, where it brings other more Duncanville guys in here, and it's kind of like a pipeline school. I mean, we've already discussed that Ron Holland was a Duncanville basketball player that committed to Texas, and unfortunately, he decommitted, but not to go to another college, to go professional, do what's best for him to become a pro. He was probably going to be a one and done regardless, but it's just good to know that Duncanville is kind of that school for Texas. And if we can continue to put up results and get these guys success on campus with NIL money, but also winning and building a winning culture, then I think we can sway more guys to come this way. In years past, we've been ranked in around this area, preseason AP and coaches poll, 12, 11, the mid-teens. Sometimes we go as high as, top 10. And I feel like every season people say, like, it's so high, like it's a lot of expectations, it's a lot of pressure. You think Bama, you think Ohio State, LSU, Georgia, you think that they think to themselves, it's a lot of pressure. Like, if we want to be mentioned in this discussion with them, like, we're right where we need to be. We just need to take care of business on the field. Don't even look at the rankings preseason. Just know that if you're in there, you belong there. And so I really think this is a huge year, and just in terms of turning the tide. I mean, obviously, is Texas going to be back this year? I mean, we don't know. We're going to have to figure that out. But in terms of changing the culture, turning the tide, making the move to the SEC, leaving the Big 12 on a high note, building the best recruiting classes you can to set yourself up for success in the SEC. This is that make or break year. I mean, this is that transitional period where you got to get all your finances and all of your stuff in order, and make sure that you take care of business before you make the move. It's like selling a house and then buying a new one. You got to move
Yeah.
in, you got to take care of business, you got to do all the touch ups on the old house.
Absolutely. We got
It's a big
to
deal.
hope we're moving to a nicer, bigger house in the Southeast Conference. And yeah, I mean, the Bama thing's a good point. Bama's ranked 4th in the AP poll, and I bet you they're not sitting there being like, "Wow, look at the pressure." I bet you they're pissed.
Yeah, exactly. Why are we not top 2?
Why are we not number 1? Why are we not number
Right.
2? They're pissed about it. Do you guys think one thing we didn't bring up on the Colin, someone commented on our YouTube video about it, like the big reason that Colin Simmons stayed obviously was being closer to home, closer to his brother, closer to his mother. And that wasn't something we fully touched upon. Do you think that conference realignment in a way could hurt certain teams recruiting wise? I know travel is easier nowadays, but if you're a Southern California kid and you go to play at USC, typically the farthest your family would have to go to ever see you is Utah. That completely changes. You're almost having to travel farther every weekend.
Yeah, but you could also flip and say that they can get kids from the East Coast now too, because you get to play over there more often, right? Or, kids in the South, it's closer to home for them. So I think it goes both ways, but odds are if you're a kid from Southern California, you go to USC. I imagine, I mean, like probably not every single parent, but like, some parents probably aren't making the trip to Utah. They're just going to the home games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you have the benefit if it's a team like USC and you're from Southern California, like Nick's saying, if you're going to play Ohio State, that game is nationally televised and it is on a good slot, and it's going to be easy for you to watch with the rest of your family. You probably weren't flying up to Eugene anyway. Like, let's be honest. Maybe you were, but there are certain parts of the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast that are not close to each other and are still a far ways to travel. So I don't think it's that much of a difference, but I do think I really agree with you, Nick. Like, that's enticing, right? You grew up in a kind of a Midwest state, but now you get to go to a West Coast school and you get to kind of branch out, do your own thing. But you know that when you're coming back for a lot of the games, half the games are going to be right around your neck of the woods where your parents could travel pretty easily, from Iowa to Michigan to Wisconsin. Those are not as hard trips as it is, getting from LA to Eugene, right? Like, you can drive very much easier within the Midwest than you can on the West Coast, because it's a massive stretch of land from the bottom of California to the top of Washington State.
Definitely. Pacific, the people make big trips out of that. They start down in San Diego, make it all the way up to Seattle. I mean, that's like a
week-long trips.
Yeah,
like
week-long trip. It's a long way. But back to Texas, I mean, us moving to the SEC, like, I think the pipeline started to open up in Florida during the Chuck Strong era. I think that was like really when it really started. He started going after the IMG guys, and Florida started really opening up for us. And it's since then been open as well. Isn't Cedric Baxter from Florida? I mean, so that's huge for us. But, being in the SEC, getting those Florida guys to know that, at least once, twice a year, they're playing around their area, right? In Florida, potentially in Georgia, we're either going to Bama or we're going to Auburn, sometimes both, in a season. So Louisiana guys, like getting all of those guys. I mean, yes, it's not that far from Texas, but it's still pretty far. I mean, it's half the country away. So for those guys to know that, at least once a year are going to go back to their neck of the woods, I think that's a big thing, as if we already needed that selling point. I mean, we're already going to the SEC. That's already a big driving factor, but it just helps, even a little bit more. Every little thing counts, especially in college. I don't know if you guys remember playing the Dynasty game mode in NCAA football, but like
Of course.
certain recruits had like their priorities, right? Like education, facilities, potential to go pro, like winning culture, like stuff like that. So like every little thing, adds to the formula and adds to this recipe of how you get a recruit over to your school. And so, let's stack all the odds in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny you bring the NCAA up because I remember Texas being such a good school to have for that because education, location, winning culture at the time of the games coming out. Thank God,
Yeah.
we had all that in spades. I was looking at the Duncanville alumni, kind of crazy. Anthony Black, kind of crazy also in the sense that like Anthony Black is one of the more recent ones. He's not football, he's basketball, but he didn't go to Texas. He went to Arkansas. Ray Crockett. Cowboy, former two-time Super Bowl champ Broncos. He went to Baylor. He didn't, he didn't go to Texas.
Former Believe host.
Former Believe host as well. There, exactly. That's why I knew him. There's a bunch of famous alumni. Adam Butler. He played for the Patriots for a number of years. He was great for them. He went to Duncanville, didn't go to Texas. And then now there's more and more young guys coming out that it's becoming a powerhouse. Greg Abbott, 40th governor of Texas. He also went to Duncanville, just to throw that out there. So
yeah, I mean, it's a big school. It's a big high school in Texas, right? They have a large enrollment. That's the nature of the beast with the state of Texas. There are a lot of kids going to high school there, and a lot of them are very talented athletically, basketball, football, baseball. You mentioned Ron Holland earlier when he first kind of, got rid of his letter of intent. There were a lot of murmurs that he was going to go to Arkansas. Like we're still, people have been going to Arkansas from Dallas, from Houston, from Austin, for a long, long time. That has been a pipeline, right? For Arkansas, same thing for LSU, same thing for a lot of the SEC schools. So nothing's really going to change there. But I think more importantly for a school like Duncanville, we're talking about like retaining a guy, retaining I literally just forgot what our beat. It's Colin Simmons. Retaining a guy like Colin Simmons and keeping him around for 3 years, right, until he goes to the pros, which is, I know his intention and his goal. The guys that he played with coming up with at Duncanville, talking to them and telling them what his experience is like at Texas, obviously is huge. A crucial element in recruiting future generations, future talent from that school. And also other guys that he's played with and grown up with in the area. He doesn't just know Duncanville guys, right? He knows guys from other schools as well in the area. So yeah, I just tapping into the pipelines and then holding on to those pipelines is now kind of the next step.
Winning cures all.
Yeah. Of course. Right.
I mean, if you have success right away, if he steps on campus and we take care of business, I mean, and he's playing, no reason why he shouldn't leave.
Speaks for itself. Yeah. I wanted to double back to the AP poll real quick and just mention that our ranking of 11th is the highest ranking we've received since 2019 when we were the 10th ranked team in the country. TCU's, interestingly, after going to the college football playoff, college football championship this past year, is the highest they've had since 2018. So, good on them. And Texas Tech falling out of the AP while being there for the coaches. That's certainly something that I don't think they'll take lightly in Lubbock, and will put a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. But
they could be dangerous. They could be pesky in Lubbock,
and not in the top 25, but they received the next highest amount of votes. So
them in
the 26th team, right?
Absolutely. They could be pesky in my personal opinion. Like they're gonna know we lost them last year. Like they could be a really big thorn in someone's side, and I'm honestly just hoping that it's not ours.
Yeah, I hope so too. We've got a lot of time in our season to prep for them and to be ready for that game, as we always do when we're playing Texas Tech, at the end of the season. So we'll be ready for that game. I know, no doubt. And just one other thing that got dropped today that I thought was cool. Yeah. Jalen Ford, our senior linebacker, he's been named to the Chuck Bednarik watch list. So that's a big deal. Again, recognition of talent, and then we just have to execute. But Jalen and Quinn Ewers last week, with Davey O'Brien being on that watch list. It's big time for these guys, and they're ready for it. They're ready for the moment.
Yeah, and I do want to say one more thing on Jalen Ford, because I feel like he's a guy we were talking about last year a lot at the end, and I think he's going to be a guy we talk about this year a lot, playing that linebacker position. Jalen Ford was a 3-star recruit, and all of a sudden is the best player in our defense.
Frisco, Texas.
I mean, we say it all the time. I mean, it's not the amount of stars that you have. I mean, yes, sure, a lot of time those guys hit, but when we looked at JJ Watt, who didn't have any stars, coming out of high school, and our guy McConaughey, wants that 5-star mentality up here. You know what I mean? So like what, shows on the stat line or what shows on your measurables or whatever site, 247, ESPN, On3, like they all have different metrics for their stars, but do they actually know the kid, inside and out? And you really don't know until they step into your locker room. And sometimes a lot when these recruiters come into their homes to, meet their families and see where they come from and kind of learn more about the kid. So there could be a lot of guys on this roster that don't have the necessary recruiting praise that Colin Simmons does that might have a bigger impact than him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, which of the Foreman brothers was the big recruit?
Armani was. Yeah,
exactly. And then I'm looking at right now,
and Deontay was the throw-in. It was like, you want me, you have to bring my brother along as well. That's what happened.
The throw-in.
One of them is still a pro.
One of them is still a pro, and one of them is the second all-time in a single season leading rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at the leading rushers in a single season: Ricky, Foreman, Ricky, Benson, Campbell, Charles, Bijan Robinson.
Yeah,
and he's like in there with those. It's really about how you play. So I just wanted to bring that up, obviously, as hyped as we are about Colin Simmons and, hopefully Kobe Black and these other guys, these dominoes that'll fall because of Colin Simmons coming through. It really is your play in the field and your development on the field. You could be a 5-star high school player and not develop and bounce around college and not come to fruition on your talent. But if you continue to develop and you develop like a 5-star player, you ultimately will achieve that pinnacle that we hope to see when we bring these types of players in.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. No doubt. All right, let's keep it going. Keep the train rolling. How many days?
19
days.
Shout out to our horns that had successful
Cole Lord
games
days
in the NFL too.
Yes. Shout out to
Cole Lord days till kickoff.
A lot of shout outs. Cole Lord, Bryce Lord, give him 1, 2, why not? Our old homie, and then Overshawn and Roshan. We threw up some highlights. Both those guys. Roshan's going to be good.
Yeah, sharing a backfield with the guy we just talked about too, Deontay Foreman. So they should be a nice little tandem. Yeah, threesome.
Bears are going to run wild.
Another guy, not a rookie UT guy, but a guy that did step foot on the 40 acres and has a lot of relationships with guys. Didn't finish his career with the Longhorns, but Shane Buechele had an incredible play for the Chiefs. He looked Mahomes-esque. You learn a thing or two when you're playing behind Patty Mahomes. That's for sure.
Shane Buechele, Super Bowl champ, right?
Yeah, Super Bowl champ.
He was
married to a Longhorn, which we appreciate.
Yeah, staying true to his roots. But he was a good dude. He just got beat out with a better quarterback. But by and large, it happens. Him, Hudson Card, always have respect for those guys. Casey Thompson, massive respect for them. All right, horns up. See you guys later.
Hook 'em.